Hello there, Taurus. This is going to be your monthly overview for July. I do apologize for getting this out late. I just kind of decided I was going to do July's with some real in-depth stuff like on the 29th or the 30th of June. So pretty much everybody's going to be getting theirs late except for I think Aries might have come out. Actually, Aries came out today. So everybody's getting theirs late. Hopefully by the next couple of months go by, I'll be able to have everybody out a little bit ahead of time. That would be nice. But anyway, we're going to start with looking for you originally for July 3rd through the 11th. And then we're going to break that down and look at other sections of the month. We're not just going to do the whole month all by itself. Okay, so if you'll just give me a second, we'll get all these cards down. Okay, so from July 3rd to 11th, we're just going to be looking at major themes going on for you. And so we're going to start with the themes around your environment. And your environment can be any place where you have energy or effort invested. For most, this is going to be home. Sometimes this shows up as work or school too, though. So what we've got going on, first of all, for a lot of you that are watching me, it's very sunny and hot where you are for that first part of July. Yeah, and even if you're in the southern hemisphere, you may be running into some issues of unusual heat, actually. What else do we have going on? It looks like where your environment is, whatever it might be for you, each Taurus, your environment is actually a pretty happy one. It seems to be that there's celebrations going on with the environment. There are things happening that are upgrading in your environment, and I think that these are things that you have actually been waiting for a long time. And so some kind of celebrations and happiness in the environment, well, kind of makes sense for those of us who are in the United States at least, because we've got 4th of July, so celebration, Independence Day. But even in general, there is this sense of celebration and happiness, and it's something that is, oh, that's funny. It's something that we wait for, or that we have been waiting for and looking forward to. It may be that we've been waiting for it just to see, are we going to be able to have a 4th of July celebration with all the COVID stuff? But isn't this interesting? When we look at this Temperance card, you can almost imagine fireworks in our hands, and with the red and the white and blue are all right there. So that's kind of fascinating. And I know a lot of my people are in the U.S., but not all of my followers are. So still, that's kind of a fascinating little thing to have pop up. Next, what we're going to look at for you, Taurus, is your subconscious leanings during the time from the 3rd to 11th, or at least the main themes here. So Taurus, it looks like you've got somebody on your mind as far as subconsciously. Yeah, there's somebody that you've had some kind of interactions with that you're not feeling really good about. This person may be feeling very low energy. They may not be feeling well at all, or they may have some kind of problem that they're having a hard time solving. It looks like they have probably opened up to you about this situation. You guys have definitely been frank and honest with each other about something. And it looks to me like with your subconscious, you're wanting to bring peace to a situation where you guys have sort of been arguing or debating. And so your subconscious mind is working on, well, how can I bring peace between us, especially while this person is going through these problems right now. Excuse me. Okay. So that's subconscious leanings, background programs of our mind. Next thing I'm looking at talks to me about learning and communication. Okay. So at least during the period from the 3rd through the 11th, Taurus, it looks to me like there's a lot of emotion and a lot of contrast around the things that you're learning during this time. There may be some things that are happening that you're finding out about that could potentially be explosive. Sometimes literally, not necessarily though, but definitely controversial. And so I think that you're finding out about these things, and there is a little bit of a sense of investigation trying to find, okay, what's the real deal behind this? I'm seeing all this hype, but what's the real deal? Because I don't feel like all this hype is really giving me the real deal. Now, as far as communication style, when we're looking at your time from the 3rd to the 11th, there's a little bit of a mixed bag going on as far as communication here. It looks like there's just some confusion. I think you're dealing with some confusion as you're hearing about some of the things around you, and as you're dealing with that confusion, your communication is sort of indicating what's going on inside of you as you're trying to sort things out. I think there's a lot of questions that you're asking, and I think you're also trying to, at the same time, once you start to get the answers and start to understand what is actually going on, I think that you are trying to pass along those nuggets of information that you're sure of to others in your life. So communication is really confused, lots of questions. What you do find out, you are passing along to other people because information seems to be really valuable during this point in time from the 3rd to the 11th, and communicating it seems to be something that that's kind of a big deal once you know the truth about something. All right, let's look next at work. So those of you who have been with me a while know that I see work in two ways. I see it as that thing that we do to make a living, or how we feel productive in society or culture, but I also see it as those things that we do to improve our own selves, to make us happy with who we are. So we're going to look at both of those. First, we're going to look at that thing that you do out in society and culture to feel productive, whether you get a paycheck for it or not. It looks to me like you guys actually have a choice in work during the time from the 3rd to the 11th. It looks like there's a situation where you were going to be collaborating with somebody, and that collaboration has sort of fallen through. And so your choice is to try to just carry the full weight of that without the other person involved, or you have another choice of moving actually along to a completely different opportunity, and just letting this thing where the collaboration fell apart, just totally letting it go. So you have a choice to make, and that's going to be, that's going to be something that you have to do during this time between the 3rd to the 11th. Of course, as a reader, I'm going to remind you that that's the perfect thing to get a reading about. If you're not sure about which way to go here, we can always look at what would happen if you chose option A and what would happen if you chose option B. So just putting that out there, since I love to read, may as well, huh? So anyway, work is going to be, you're going to have a choice about which one to do with work. As far as inner work, you are actually really looking at yourself and doing some inner work right now. And it looks to me like you have a very particular goal in mind that you want to accomplish with that inner work. And I think that you do have a choice of whether you want to work with somebody on that, or if you want to do this work by yourself. Do you want to have a coach? Do you want to take some kind of spiritual classes or any other kind of classes that would help you? Or do you want to work through this by yourself? Do you want to read a book and follow that guidance? Or do you want to follow your own intuition about how to clear out whatever this old energy or old blockage is when you're doing your inner work? So once again, you have a choice there of whether you want to work with somebody or whether you don't, basically, as far as on that inner thing that you're working on your own character. Next thing that I'm looking at for you, Taurus, during the time frame of the 3rd through the 11th has to do with that part of you which is being grown or expanded as you go through this time. Okay, so what's going on is you are dealing with some situations and multiple situations where things seem a little fishy. Not everything really adds up, and you know not everything really adds up, but it looks like for a while you've sort of had a hard time putting your fingers on, well, what's the missing information? What's the missing link here that would make everything make sense? Here is where you're growing or expanding. You are starting to get the gift of being able to understand and see through any baloney that's around you and sort of cut through all the silliness and all the BS and see the truth. And so this is where you're growing and expanding and being able to spot the truth 10 miles away, even if somebody is trying to cover it. Okay? So, I mean, I would rejoice with you for this. Actually, it's a good skill to have. The only reason I'm not rejoicing for you with this is that this means that you've got several situations where somebody's not being straight with you, and that's never fun either. So, yes, you are definitely learning a good skill, and I hope you put it to good use because it does allow you to move forward more productively. If you can see baloney as it's walking down the trail to you, you know to avoid it, and you know to move towards something that's not that. So, it is actually good. It is forward movement. Okay, Taurus, next thing we're going to look at are those things that you stand for or that thing that you stand for. And you could actually stand for it quite aggressively. Now, this is something that somebody will be talking to you about sometime between the 3rd and the 11th, and you'll actually end up defending it. Um, So it looks like what you've done is you have seen somebody's true colors where somebody just, they really had too much on their plates. They were trying to do too many different things, trying to juggle too many different things. They weren't focusing, and because they weren't focusing, things were falling through the cracks. And as things were falling through the cracks, you actually realized you saw this person for somebody who they are, somebody who has scattered energy that can't focus on one project or on one thing, or at least not really at this point. And so you being able to see that goes right back to exactly what you are, where you're growing and expanding, is being able to see baloney as it's coming down the road. This really talks about you are actively manifesting being able to see baloney as it comes down the road. So you may be practicing with your psychic abilities, or maybe maybe you've got a deck of tarot cards and you're learning how to use them, or runes, or whatever other tools. But this does talk about that you're defending this. Somebody maybe even be saying to you, why are you looking at this? This is not even easy information for you to know about. Why are you even trying to look into what's actually happening beneath the scenes? And you're having to defend that. You are defending it quite passionately, actually. And what does this other person think about you as you're defending that? Well, one thing that comes up is they're definitely seeing a change in you, and the change is coming about because of the things that you are understanding that you didn't understand before. You're starting to understand that basically that this person is not Prince Charming or not the person that you thought would actually be helpful and stable and reliable and steady for you, but actually they're the opposite of that. Whether it's in a romantic situation, a business situation, a friendship, whatever type of relationship, you originally thought this person was going to be stable, somebody you could rely on, somebody who was grounded. And now you're starting to see that they really are not. And so what is going on is this person is seeing you understand that, and they're seeing the transformation that you're making in your attitude towards them. And that kind of explains to me, okay, so you're finding out somebody's true colors, you're finding out the real deal, and somebody's questioning you, well, why are you looking at this? Well, they don't want you to look at it because they know that you're going to find the truth about them, and they don't want you to find the truth about them. So that makes sense. That just falls right into place. Okay, next thing that we're going to look at is the pivot point for the week. I call it the pivot point. It's kind of where things change direction. All right, so what we have coming up here. Okay, so for your pivot point, Taurus, you guys actually are finding yourself attracted to a new activity or a new idea or possibly even a new relationship. This could definitely be finding yourself attracted to something that has to do with divination. I don't have a high priestess here, but I've got a Queen of Cups, and she's very empathic. She definitely can read energies. She understands how other people feel, sometimes even before they do. And it looks to me like you are starting on this new journey with whatever this is that you're attracted to, whether it is something psychic or whether it's something different. You are starting on this new journey that you're really enjoying, this new I don't know if I want to say it's a learning opportunity, but it's a new activity that you're doing that you're really enjoying. So this could be a new relationship, it could be a new project at work, could be a new hobby, could be a new activity for your leisure. But anyway, whatever it is, you're enjoying it and you're starting forward with it. All right, so as this is happening, we've got some other things that start to happen along the way that are triggered by this. Okay. Whatever this is that you're finding yourself attracted to, I thought it was new because you have a new beginning here, but it's not new. This is something that is from the past, something that you've enjoyed before. Maybe you used to like to paint, and now you're rediscovering that. Maybe you used to like to do sculptures or pottery, now you're rediscovering that. Um, it's something that really makes you feel good as you allow yourself to sink into this or explore this more. Just looking at this last card and seeing how it fits in. It looks to me like this is in the past before, because before, the people that you were doing this with were people who were getting on your nerves, maybe even betraying you. And so you had gotten away from this because you didn't want to keep that, you didn't like that feeling of being betrayed or of somebody just getting on your nerves all the time. It ruined your enjoyment of whatever this was. Well, now you're coming back to it. You don't have that happening anymore. You're just actually enjoying this relationship or this activity or project, whatever it is. You're just allowing yourself to completely enjoy it because time has changed some things. You're not in the same situation that you were in the last time around with it. Now, looking at something else that's going on as you're beginning this thing with something you're attracted to. I think that this is bringing up some memories for you. So where you have some really nice things going on, you're also in a situation where what you're doing is bringing up some old memories for you that are not so pleasant. They make you miss somebody or miss some of the old times. And it looks to me like, bringing this back, whatever this activity, relationship, whatever it is, bringing this back into your life does make you miss the way things used to be. For a lot of you, we're talking straight up about a relationship. I wouldn't say that's for everybody because this is a general reading and not all Tauruses are going to be starting a new relationship. Some of you are going to be in a relationship already and not even open to the idea of starting a new relationship. But for quite a few of the ones of you who watch, this is talking about a relationship, or this could also be talking about a new phase in a relationship as well. It's interesting because there's definitely mixed feelings here. There's something enjoyable about what this is that you're doing, and there's also something that makes you miss somebody or something from the past. So, how do we end the week? Let's take a peek. It's interesting because it looks to me like whatever this is that you're remembering from the past and that you're missing, I think we end the week with you considering going back to that, but I don't see you actually taking that action just yet. I see you waiting and holding off. And part of the reason that you're waiting and holding off is because you know that this is not a reciprocal situation where somebody is where somebody's going to meet you halfway. So whatever your new activity, whatever this has brought up memories about for you, you're thinking about going back to whatever those memories are of, and you're realizing that if I go back to them, you know, things were never very even. I was always the one putting in all the energy or effort. And so you're sort of holding still, you're hanging, you're waiting. You want to, I think you want to wait and let your decision become more clear before you choose one way or the other. You know, I think your heart is saying, I want to go back, and your mind is saying, whoa, that's a bad idea. And you just kind of want to give it time until all of you can agree, you know, all your chakras can be in agreement on what you actually want to do about this situation that you're remembering now because of your new beginning that you're having during the time frame from July 3rd through the 11th. Okay, so that's that portion. I'm going to stop the video and come back fresh for the next portion in a bit. See you in a second. Okay, Taurus, we're back for July 12th through the 18th. Just reshuffling the deck and getting ready to go with it. Come back here. Need my cards to be still and stay in their place. Okay, so let's see what we have this time around, Taurus, starting once again with environment, which is any place where you have your energy or effort invested. It looks to me like there's something about your environment that's actually a gift that somebody gave to you, but you're just not quite sure exactly what to do with that gift or how to make it work for you, because it doesn't seem like it's really working. It looks like somebody had some good intentions, but it has kind of thrown you off as far as your environment goes. Let's look next at your subconscious leanings, Taurus, and see what comes up here. Okay, so Taurus, it looks like there's somebody in your life that you do care about greatly. I don't think you've told them yet. And your subconscious mind is looking for, how do I let them know? Or, you know what, I don't know that it's not necessarily that you haven't told them. I think that maybe you have told them and they just don't seem to get it. They're not picking up on how you actually feel about them. And so you're trying to be very patient with them not getting it and trying to figure out, okay, well, how can I actually say this in a way that they will understand exactly how I feel about them? And so this is subconscious leanings having to do with some type of relationship where you want somebody to know your true feelings for them. All right, next thing we're going to look at talks to me about learning style and also communication style during this time frame from the 12th to the 18th, Taurus. What do we have? What do we have? I think your learning style, you're doing a lot of communication with the divine, maybe even meditation, but you're definitely doing a lot of prayer, and you're looking at, I think you're learning things in a spiritual way, or things, but spirituality seems to be the focus around your learning style during this time between the 12th and the 18th. Communication style. you're very clear in your communication. I don't think anybody could misunderstand anything that you're saying. You're also very grounded in your communication, meaning that, you know, what you're saying is realistic. It's good where the rubber meets the road. It's not just, you know, theory, really out there, woo-woo type stuff, as some people would say. Um, and I think that also the things that you're saying, even though it's very grounded and practical, very clear, I think you're managing to say this in a nice way, in a tactful way. Those are your themes for communication for the 12th to the 18th. Next, we're going to look at work, both inner work and outer work, as we talked about in the first time frame that you have. So let's look at outer work first. It looks to me like you're not feeling very energized by the work that you're doing or inspired by the work that you're doing. You may not feel like working at all, and you may not feel like you're very good at the work that you do. Maybe you're not very good at it because you're not feeling like doing it, or maybe you're just, maybe it's the other way around. Maybe you don't feel like doing it because you don't feel like you're very good at it. Either way, it looks to me like it's very likely that you could be moving on to some other kind of work that would have you feeling a lot better about actually working, basically. Okay. Next thing that we have coming up talks to me about your subconscious leanings. Ooh, looks like you have a person on your mind, Taurus. This is going to be somebody who has strong feminine energy, just meaning either a female or, if this is a male, somebody with less aggressive or assertive, less dominant type energy. And so this is somebody who's very creative. They think outside the box. They're also very independent. They're really great problem solvers. And they're also very sunshiny personalities, okay? And so in your subconscious, you've got some kind of quandary here between spending time away from this person and yet also being attracted to this person and wanting to spend time to this person. Not necessarily attracted in a romantic way, by the way. I mean, we're not taking that off the table. I'm just saying that's not the only way to be attracted to a person. So it looks like your subconscious is working on, okay, well, this person's really fascinating. They think outside the box. They're usually happy, very cheerful. They can always find a silver lining. I like being around them, but there's something going on here, and I don't have the whole picture, but there's something going on where you're debating about whether you want to be around this person or whether you want to be away from this person. We'll see if more of that picture comes out as we look through this spread, but that's your subconscious leanings. Next thing that we're looking at has to do with learnings, or with things that you stand for. Excuse me, we've already done learning style. Okay. It looks like you're being really open to somebody that is coming on from your past. You're really opening up to them and you're letting that person know how you feel. Huh, didn't we see that earlier? Anyway, you're letting that person know how you feel. This is not like trying to get across to them. This is that you're letting that person know how you feel and you're standing up for that. Like if somebody's criticizing you for doing this, you're telling them to step off the curb, Jack. I've got my reasons. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. I can make mistakes myself just fine. Have y'all ever heard that song? Probably not. Probably showing my age. All right. So anyway, let's look next at how this person is perceiving you. They see you as starting something new that brings you a lot of happiness, but here's this card coming up again. They're worried that there may be some betrayal in the mix here. Yeah, they're worried about you opening up to this person from the past because they're expecting that not to end very well. They're expecting that person to not be very true to you or not be very nice to you, let's say. All right, so we've got that. Let's look next at the pivot point during this week. All right. Okay, well, what we see here is a timeout, basically, a time of just hanging in suspension, of not making any decisions, not moving forwards, not moving backwards, just kind of being suspended in time as you try to figure something out. And it looks like there's a situation where you're in disagreement with somebody that you're partnered with. And this disagreement is one that it just is so, it just hurts your heart that you guys aren't on the same page right now. And so I think with this timeout that we have going on here, I think you're really trying to work out, well, how can we get on the same page? It looks like you guys may have had, a time where you guys said actually very hurtful things to each other. Whether it was a romantic partner or a friend, there were some hurtful things, and you just want to take a break and sort of calm everything down, allow yourself to sit with your feelings and sort of work out, okay, how can we make this better? But there's definitely some heartache coming up here along with this idea that there's a friendship or a partnership that is just not really working out too well. Now, while you are taking that break and trying to sort things out for yourself, other things that are happening around this pivot point, you are keeping some boundaries up. You are keeping some boundaries up as you do this. And I think that you're staying very hopeful that things can work out in the future, even though you are kind of keeping those boundaries up where you guys have decided to take some time. You're not letting anybody change your mind about taking some time to try to figure things out. Okay? That's why those boundaries are there. Other thing that's happening at this time, you're definitely not working with this person that you're not on the same page with. There's some disappointment. There is this feeling of defeat that's happened. So this is interesting because we have this hopefulness that things can work out better, more towards the beginning of, right after this has just happened. But as we move through time, this becomes more about this whole idea of being disappointed and feeling like, like you're defeated, like there is no option for things to go better, not being able to work together with this person. So I think just during this week from the 18th, from the point that you guys have this disagreement, you go from being hopeful that you can, if you take some time and just think things through, that you can make things work out, you can come together and that things will be good, to feeling like there's not going to be a coming together and things are not good, and that disappointment from that. Really sorry to be reporting this to you, Taurus. Let's look at the end of the week. What do we have here? It does look like where you had lost hope in the situation, it looks like you're able to sort of prolong things or procrastinate them. That kind of goes along with holding out and just trying to be quiet, take a break. You're trying to hold off. You're trying to still buy some time. And I think you are actually buying some time once we get to the end of the week. You're still buying some time here, waiting. And I think that hope is coming through. Again, I think you're still hopeful. But there is a little bit of mixed emotion because even though you're buying time on this situation, whatever type of relationship it is, you're buying time in hopes that things will work out better. I think also you're feeling like, you know what, I've given an awful lot to this relationship and I'm kind of done being the person that gives. So even though you're buying time, you're also expecting this other person to be the one that comes to you and compromises or comes to you and apologizes. So you're buying time, you would like it to work out, but at the same time, you know that it can't work if you're the one that comes and says, I'm sorry, or if you're the one that says, let's try this again. And so I really don't see you doing that. Even though you've bought time, there's not a final big blowout with whatever this relationship is. You've been able to push that out in time. I really don't see you as being willing to take that first step or initiate to get things going or get things moving forward, at least not by the end of this week. Thanks, guys. I'm going to take a break and see you in a couple minutes. Okay, Taurus, we're back again. We're going to be looking at July 19th through the 25th. Let's just see what we get, shall we? Okay, Taurus. First thing that we are looking at is your environment. Environment is any place where you have energy or effort invested. And I am seeing that this is more of a long-term environment, but you're really frustrated right now with the environment that you're in. And it looks like you're kind of impatient to look for a new environment, even though you've been in this place for a long time. So this could apply as home, this could be work, this could be school. You'll kind of recognize as we look at it what that's all about. Next, we're going to look at subconscious leanings, Taurus, and what we have showing up here has to do with, really has to do with the idea that you thought you were going to have something to celebrate, and then it turned out that whatever that was that you thought you were going to be able to celebrate is not actually coming to fruition. So that celebration can't, there's no justification for that celebration. And it looks like you kind of have a choice here about whether you want to try again to make this happen that you thought you were going to be celebrating. So like if you were going to try to pass the bar exam and you thought you would be celebrating that you passed it, now you're trying to decide, okay, well, really, I don't think you're trying to decide. I think you're trying to plan for, okay, now, when do I take this exam again? What do I have to do to prepare to take this again? That type of thing. So there was something that you thought you were going to be able to celebrate. It turned out that you weren't able to. And now your subconscious is working on, okay, well, what do I have to do to make this viable? What do I have to do to make this into a celebration? What steps do I have to take to make this celebration worthy? Okay. Excuse me while I wet my whistle. All right, so next we're looking at learning style and communication style. I think you are definitely looking for the truth about some things very enthusiastically and digging deep. There is something that is in your life that is very confusing. This may have to do with some of the unrest that's been happening in the country lately. Maybe for some of you it's happening in the company as well. But you are definitely feeling like, there's a lot of missing information. And so you're looking for the truth about the situation. So that's where your learning is really focused right now. And as far as communication style, I think that you're very, very clear in the communication that you're passing along. Now, I do think that there is a little bit of confusion that you have about the things that you want to talk about, but at the same time, I think you're being very clear as you talk about them. You're letting people know, look, I'm not sure what I think about this situation, but so far I'm leaning towards blah, blah, blah. So there is some confusion, but I still think in your communication, you're being very clear with people around you so they know where you stand, excuse me, as much as you do. They know as much about where you stand as you do, even though you may be waiting for more information to make a decision about where you stand on certain things that you're communicating to the people around you in your environment. Okay? Next thing we're going to look at has to do with work. Okay. So it looks like you have been working away from people for a while. and some point between the 19th and the 25th, you're going to be coming into contact with other people as you work in a more consistent way than what you have. And it looks to me like you're really moving away from this idea of working away from people during this time frame. You're starting to focus more on, okay, how can I do my work in a safe way without being completely isolated? And you're starting to take some actions along those lines as well. Okay. Next thing that I'm looking at talks to me about those things that you stand for, Taurus. So Taurus, it does look like there's something in your life that you feel really inspired about, you feel really happy about, you're enjoying. This could be a project, a hobby, a recreation type of activity. This could even be a relationship that you're feeling really inspired about and really enjoying. And it looks to me like whatever this is, you're putting it on hold, whether it's an activity or a relationship. You're saying, you know what, let's just wait a minute. And I think somebody has said to you, well, why? I don't understand. If everything is going so good, why are you putting it on hold? Why are you waiting with it? And then we're looking at how other people perceive you. Okay, so Taurus, people see you as, you know, starting this new thing, but not really being in control of the new thing. And I think that they come away with the idea that you're kind of putting everything on hold and waiting to move forward with this thing that you like and that makes you feel inspired. You're putting it on hold because you're trying to avoid a blow up. It's almost like you feel like if you put too much energy or effort into it now, then it's only going to last so long. You really want to sort of just take your time with this and plan this out and start this new thing in a really good way. That's how people are perceiving what you're doing, at least. Now, looking at that part of your personality, which is being grown or expanded right now, it's kind of interesting what we have coming up, because it looks like you're dealing with some areas where you feel like you've lost or where you've been defeated in your life. And this can be in business or this can be in love. But it looks like you're learning, okay, well, how do I cope with that? And it looks like what you're finding out is that even though you may not be doing well in one particular place in life, there are other things you're doing well with, and you're learning to focus more on the things that are working out well for you. And you're kind of turning your back on this thing that hasn't worked out so well for you. You're not paying as much attention to it. It's like you're not letting yourself get all worked up about those things that aren't working out so well, and instead you're just looking at, okay, well, what will make me happy? For some of you, this is escapism into things like alcohol or drugs, but for a lot of you, this is just a very healthy way of putting the law of attraction to work, where you're focusing on your happiness and moving forward from wherever something didn't work out, just moving forward from that and looking for that next opportunity that's available to you. So really just learning how to deal with things that don't go the way that you wanted them to, learning how to, you know, some of you, I feel like Taurus, are really like fine-tuning those escapism type habits, but most of you, I think, are fine-tuning that idea of, you know what, well, that didn't work out, okay, let's kind of shrug it off. Where's the next opportunity that I can work with? Where can I take what I learned from this thing that didn't turn out so well and make the next thing work out better? Okay? So next thing we're looking at is that pivotal part of the week coming up for you, Taurus. So sometime we are on the week of the 19th to the 25th. It looks like really the pivotal experience here is you getting really, really focused. You're looking at things very logically. It looks to me like there's something that you may have really put a lot of emotional thought into, but now you've had a reality check when it comes to whatever that is. And you're starting to realize that you can't run completely on emotions in this situation. And so now you're focusing on looking at something very logically instead of very emotionally. Now, as you're looking at this thing in a more logical way, there are some things going on. First of all, it looks to me like you are um, vulnerable to taking some rash action. You're vulnerable to actually taking action on something that you don't have the full picture on. And to me, this is because you're missing somebody. And as you're missing that person, you're making some decisions from a place that is not so logical, actually, even though you've been trying to be logical. You're making some decisions from a place that's not logical. And what's happening when you're making these decisions is you're actually manifesting exactly the opposite of what you wanted to bring into your life. Other things that are going on right now. It looks like you are really focusing your communication, your interactions on somebody who has been around for a while, somebody who's the past. This is not new energy, okay? So you may have been for a while really kind of juggling between something new and something that has been tried and true. And it looks to me like as you're getting focused and looking at things logically, you've decided, you know what, I am going to focus more on this person or this thing, this activity, this business, whatever it is that's been around for a while, that's been there for me, and I'm going to focus on this and this other thing that has been taking up my energy that's newer that I don't know if it's sturdy and if it's reliable. I don't know if it'll stick around in the good times and the bad times. I'm letting that go. Okay, so that's what I see coming up for you as you're looking at things more logically. Once we get towards the end of the week, all the way to the end of the week, we do have you really putting energy and effort into this thing that you have picked using your logical mind and having a lot of hope for how that can go. At the same time, I think you're also being given the opportunity to push forward with that thing that is newer, that isn't tried, that isn't true. And I think it looks to me like you're turning that opportunity down because you've decided that it's more important to focus on this situation or this person or this thing that has been around for a while, that you already know that they're reliable and that they're solid. Okay? So that is the 19th through the 25th. Let me wrap this up, and then after I take a little break and let my voice recover a little bit more, I'll come back and do the last little segment. Hello there, Taurus. We are back again, and this is for July 26th through the 31st. So not quite a full week, but 6 full days. And we'll just see what comes up for us. Or what comes up for you. I'm actually a Taurus rising, so some of this would apply to me too. Let's just see what comes up. Okay, Taurus, let's start with your environment. Any place where you have energy or effort invested. What we have coming up here is that you're feeling really inspired about your environment. I think there are some things that you would like to change about the environment, and you're making those changes, and you're really, really liking them as you do that. I like this. I like this. And it does look like it's taking some energy or effort to make these changes, but it's not taking so much that it's draining you. So that's nice to see. Inspired new changes in your environment. All right, Taurus, next let's look at your subconscious leanings. So it looks to me like there's been something that has come up that you were not prepared for, that it sort of sideswiped you, and it had to do with a marriage or a contract agreement, some kind of binding agreement. And this has just come up suddenly, where this binding agreement has sort of just fallen apart. And I don't think you were expecting that or you were prepared for that. And so your subconscious is really working on, okay, well, how do I make this better? That's the thing the subconscious is always focused on. How do I make this better? How do I make this work out more in a good way than how it started out? Okay. Next thing we're looking at here is going to be learning style and also communication style. So for learning style, I think you are getting a lot of clarity this week, and this has to do with things that cause you a lot of emotion, but there's a lot of good information coming in, and I think that you're really understanding, you're putting all the pieces together and seeing the big picture. As far as communication, I think you're being very careful about who you communicate with and how much you communicate, but I think that when you do communicate, there is some emotion involved in that. However, I feel like you're very careful not to show as much emotion as what you're feeling. You're basically trying to play things off as if they're not bothering you, when actually I think they kind of are. And this has to do with some of the information that you're finding out. Like I said, this information is causing an emotional reaction. And next thing that we're looking at talks to me about work. And so we're going to look at how you make a living or how you feel productive in the community. And then we'll also look at what you're doing to improve your own inner character for yourself. So work looks like it's going really well. You may even be getting a raise or a promotion. If you've been out of work, this would talk about you're getting back into work. But I don't feel like this is probably something new for most of you Taurians. I think this is more of a raise or a promotion. It looks like you're continuing on with something that you had started. I guess this could be even getting a job and you're still putting out resumes anyway. So maybe, yeah, this is still a new thing that we have here. And it looks like the reason you're able to celebrate this, whether it's a new job, a raise, or a promotion, the reason you're able to celebrate this has to do with something that happened that really shook things up before, shook things up in the company. Maybe somebody left, or this may even be a direct result of this job may have come about as a result of coronavirus, or something else that was hard on people. But it looks like there was some kind of, the reason that you are able to celebrate in your work has to do with the idea that this company has gone through some pretty rough times. Yep, you may be getting a promotion because somebody left unexpectedly. Okay, now let's look at inner work. Inner work, I don't feel like you really have a new thing that you're working on for inner work. I feel like whatever you've had that you've been working on has been kind of a process that has been ongoing. And I think a lot of it has to do with the whole idea that you found yourself in a position in life where you were stagnant and you weren't moving forward. And the inner work is really to remove those blockages, to allow you to start moving forward, to allow you to start attaining those things that you really were born to attain, and to do those things you really were born to do. So this is really a continuation of removing blockages so that you can move forward with your goals and with your calling here in life. Next thing that we're looking at has to do with that part of you that's being grown or expanded, that part of your personality that's being grown or expanded right now. It looks like there are some things that you are bringing to an end in your life. These could be relationships, behaviors, thought patterns, activities. And as you're bringing these things to an end, you're finding out you have a lot less stress, a lot more relief in your life, and a lot less stress in your life than you used to have, just because you have shut these things down or brought them to an end, because they had become really more of a burden, more of a cause of stress than any kind of benefit to you. All right, next let's look at that thing that you stand for, at least during the week of the 26th through the 31st. Okay, so it looks like you've been through some stuff, just like about everybody else on this planet lately. And you've had some things that haven't worked out the way that you wanted them to, that were disappointing, but you're not focusing on that. You're not staying mired in any kind of pity party. You're actually just kind of shrugging off those things that didn't work out the way you wanted them to, and you're focusing on what is the next opportunity. And it looks like you have some really great inspiration about where that next opportunity lies. And I think that, I think actually you have more than one good opportunity about where that next inspiration and project lies for you, project or opportunity. And I think that you're actually a little bit confused during the week of the 26th to the 31st about which one to pick. And so somebody is saying to you, won't you make up your mind already? Can't you figure out what it is you really want to do? You're having to defend yourself for taking your time to really think this over and make sure that you're choosing the right one. Now, how this person sees you as somebody who is totally and completely self-sufficient, and somebody who they're seeing that you have a solid financial base, and that you're independent, you're self-sufficient, you're not relying on anybody. And they're also seeing you as somebody who's very patient as you move forward. To me, this really, yeah, they're seeing you as somebody who is very patient as you move forward, and that patience is working out to you and bringing you the opportunities that you're looking for, or that you need, or that you want. So that patience is an asset. I know we always badmouth patience, but it does have its good points. Next thing we're looking at is that pivotal experience during the week. It does look like there's something that you've done before, or someone that you've been with before, that you are going back to. There's something old that you're returning to, something that you had moved away from, something or someone that you had gotten away from because you felt like they were leaving you depleted. I don't think that you have a lot of hope for this situation as you move back. I think you kind of have the attitude of, well, let's go back and try it, but you're not seeing a lot of hope for this situation. You are going back, interestingly enough, going back into the situation that made you feel depleted before, with good, strong self-confidence and self-esteem. And I honestly think that whatever this was that you're going back to, it kind of put a beating on you whenever it came to self-esteem. So for you to come back with a strong self-esteem, I think you're feeling like you can go back, you can deal with whatever it is that's going on there. And if it gets to be where you're being emotionally abused again, then you're going to stand up for yourself and you're just not going to tolerate it. So you're going back with the anticipation that things are going to have to change when you go back. I still have to say I don't see you as being very hopeful about things changing. So to me, this is kind of a trial period. Like somebody may have talked you into this and you're like, okay, well, I'll give it a try. You know, maybe they even guilted you into it. So you're giving it a try just because really somebody else wants you to. Okay. What am I looking at next? I want to look at what's going on as you're going back into this thing. Remember I talked about that you're not really feeling very hopeful about any changes actually coming out of this. I think that that becomes even more highlighted as you get deeper into this thing that you've walked back to. I do feel like there's whatever this is you've walked back to, I think somebody else is even just cutting you out. Like here, somebody's talked you into going back to this thing and trying to make it work. Somebody else is actually cutting you out, and you end up feeling left out of this situation, even though you've tried. And I feel like honestly, you've tried against your better judgment to go back to this, Taurus. Now, other things that are happening here. Yep. Other things that are happening is that you're starting to realize that we still have this whole theme of not being very hopeful about where this is going, and not even really being very hopeful about people being good people in general. There are some decisions that are being made about you that are unfair. We kind of saw that where this person cut you out even though you went back to try to make this work even against your own better judgment. So this shows up again with those unfair decisions being made towards you. However, you are coming out victorious with the Six of Wands, which tells me that even though this never really looked like a winner of a deal, and even though this may have been against your intuition to go back to it, even though it made you feel depleted before, you're coming out a winner because you felt like you needed to go back and just make sure that you gave this thing your best shot, made sure that this wasn't not working out just because of something you had done, and just make sure that you had given it your all so that you never had any regrets or any wonderings of, well, what could have happened. And so that's where I feel like you're feeling victorious here, even though almost as soon as you show up on the situation, somebody cuts you out, you're feeling like, you know what, I can look myself in the mirror now and I'm okay. So, you know, maybe things didn't work out well. Well, at least they can't say that it ended because of me. All right. So that's what I see going on with that. Once we get towards the end of the week, I do see that you're feeling really good about yourself. Once again, you're feeling a little bit lost as to what you want to do next, what your purpose should be. But I think you're starting to get that sorted out too. I think you're also, at the same time that you're feeling lost, I think you're conscious enough to realize that. And you're really looking within yourself about, okay, you know, what's limiting me here? Why is it limiting me? And where can I go from here? And you are starting to take some of that action, and you're definitely still keeping your self-confidence. You didn't let somebody beat you up on the self-confidence situation over again just because you went back to that old situation. Okay? So that's what we've got for your month. I hope you guys find this helpful. I am putting lots of energy and effort into these, so of course I hope that you find these helpful. Please let me know if you do. And I look forward to doing private readings for those of you who would like to have one. You guys can contact me at the contact information listed on the website at the bottom of the screen if you'd like to set something like that up. And I'm just glad to see you all. I'm glad to be here, glad to be serving you. Everybody have a fantastic July, and I'll see you guys back on the next video. Peace out.